You're listening to DigitalNOW, an original business and technology podcast by Logic 2020. I'm your host, Matt Treville. Each episode, I will be interviewing a new expert to learn more about industry trends, fascinating new tech, shifting customer expectations, and the steps every business can take to stay ahead. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This episode, we are talking about machine learning for good. I'm so excited about this. And our guest today is David Williams, who's a lead product manager in the digital transformation practice at Logic 2020, a certified Scrum product owner, has a Master's of Science from the University of Denver, and has had an interest in machine learning after seeing the benefits his past companies saw when manufacturing various software applications, which he will talk about in this episode. David, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Matt. Happy to be here.
How are you?
I'm doing well. And you?
Good, mate. I'm always happy when we're chatting. I know we spoke a few times before this, and you just bring a great energy, I've got to say, and I hope people listening can understand it because you're a fantastic guy. But listen, I'm going to stop flattering you too much because I know that's not, you're a modest guy. So how about we get straight to the questions?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. I know you're a lot more comfortable in that space than getting all these compliments, so we'll do that. Okay, so first question. We're going to keep it real simple. What is machine learning and how is it connected to artificial intelligence?
So machine learning is a branch of artificial intelligence based on the idea that systems can learn from data and identify patterns. It's just one of the many branches of artificial intelligence. Some other branches include limited memory, in which the machine will actually look back in time to predict things that may happen in the future, or self-awareness, which we haven't quite gotten to yet, where the machine understands that it is a machine and where it is and how it fits into the world.
I mean, that one scares me. So that could be a whole nother podcast. Let's leave that one for today. We'll just stick to machine learning if you don't mind. Okay. So today we're here to chat about using machine learning for good. And you have some really cool past experiences in some of the projects you've been involved in. So I want to dive into those. And, with everything that's been going on in the world in recent history, right? It's not been a great time for humanity. So I'm really excited about this. But before we jump into that, could you just explain, what you define as using machine learning for good?
So I define it as using machine learning to find ways to help society. Things such as identifying the pattern of a disease through the population, how a disease filters through the population or infects other people, or modifying self-destructive human behaviors and keeping those people on the right track based on giving them some type of feedback and seeing a pattern in their behavior that can be stopped ahead of time.
So it can be used for some really powerful benefits, basically. I mean, you're talking about diseases and self-destructive behaviors. It really can be something that can change the course of someone's life, right?
Yes, definitely. It can really make a big difference in someone's life.
That's awesome. So have you ever experienced machine learning being used for something not so good? Like sports betting or trading stocks or anything like that? I have to ask that question because obviously with all the good, there can be some bad too. So have you ever seen it?
Well, I mean, some people wouldn't consider sports betting or stock trading exactly bad, but as far as being beneficial to society, not so much.
Not as much as the other stuff we mentioned, right?
Exactly. You're not solving infectious disease problems or, modifying destructive human behavior. You're probably creating more destructive human behavior than anything else. But yes, they do. There are we already have that really. There are brokerage firms that already have offerings that are called robo portfolios, in which you basically just put your money in there and the machine determines the best stocks to buy for you and determines when to sell and when to buy other stocks. So there are already brokerages that do that.
Okay. And that's not necessarily bad. It's just not being used for the really good causes, just to clarify, right?
Yeah. I mean, those brokerage firms would probably beg to differ. They would probably say, well, we're helping to create wealth and things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's all in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so let's talk about the good stuff. So, what are some of the ways you've seen it used in good ways in your past companies? You know, and Logic 2020 has some case studies where we've done it for similar reasons. But I'd love to hear about your past a little bit and some of the cool initiatives you've been involved in where you're using ML for good.
Yes. Well, while employed for a criminal justice software firm outside of Denver, Colorado, we were creating a program or application in which it took data from the criminal justice system in order to determine if an offender, or drug or alcohol related offender, is likely to commit another offense and how to lower their recidivism back into the system. So this person may have already been charged with a crime, a alcohol or drug related crime, and put on some type of program. This machine would, first of all, it would determine their risk level. And then based on that risk level, and if they commit a offense or if they're doing well in the system, it will give recommendations to their parole officer on the award or on the punishment that this individual needs in order to complete that program flawlessly and not come back into the system. So it would give, let's say, a person does very well. They haven't had a drink in a while and they deserve a reward. The system would basically message the parole officer, say, hey, this person has been doing very well. They deserve some type of reward. This system would give recommendations of reward. So we'll have a middle lane reward and then two on the end, one more extreme, one less extreme. And based on what the parole officer actually does and picks and how that individual goes through the actual program, and if they do better or worse, if they come back into the system again, it will change its
Wow.
recommendations based on that.
The learning part, right? It's learning the behavior that it's seeing and then predicting or at least trying to guide the parole officer in this case in enforcing positive behavior, right? And
Yes.
or enforcing negative behavior.
Yes, exactly. It basically gives the parole officer a way to help this individual the best way they can. And it's not only for this one individual. This is data coming from hundreds of parole officers all across the country and the world to modify this system. So it's huge amounts of data coming in, and the system is looking at all of this data and making adjustments to the recommendations based on this data.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, you must have seen some really cool, on the other side of it, you must have seen some really cool transformations in people and things like that, right? Or at least heard the stories. That's pretty powerful stuff.
Yes, it definitely lowered recidivism when we were doing the pilot programs in the few districts. It definitely lowered the amount of people coming back into the system and helping people get through their programs much faster because the more offenses that you have, the longer your programs are because it kind of sets you back.
Yeah.
Some of the punishments could be a longer sentence in the program. So yeah, it definitely helped get them through a lot faster, which saves
Yeah.
the taxpayers a lot more money
Yeah.
and help these people get their lives back.
Yeah, it's win-win for everyone, right? You know what I love what you said is it's not just saying do this, do that to the parole officer. It's saying here's some examples or here's some recommendations, and it's still their personal, opinion, right? So that's pretty cool that they're able to still have their own choice in the matter. It's just suggesting a next best action.
Yes. And another part of this is that this was also helping scientists as well, because they were able to see the data and see how some of the parole officers were acting towards and the punishments or rewards that they were giving to the individuals and how the individual would do to gather more data to enter into the
Wow.
system itself as well. So it was feeding itself in multiple ways.
So on both sides of the equation, it was helping.
Yep.
Oh. I mean, wow, that's cool. I mean, you must be very proud to be a part of a program like that.
Yes, very much so. It was one of those things that you can really sleep well at night knowing what you did the day before.
Yeah, that's cool. And then of course, thinking about that more, that type of technology or that type of purpose can be put across so many different industries or so many different initiatives, right? That's not a very complicated system that's helping in this case, but that can be used, I'd say, in a whole different area of places.
Yes, definitely. I also worked on another project, actually here in the Seattle area, for a healthcare company who was creating a AI machine learning algorithm to help individuals with their oral hygiene. It would determine what you have done as far as your oral hygiene and help you to be better at
Wait, you talk about cleaning your teeth or cursing? What are you talking about here?
cleaning your teeth, Matt.
Okay, cool. Well, so it records you cleaning your teeth and then uses the data to let you know if you're being efficient or not. Is something like that?
Exactly. That's exactly the way it works.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Maybe I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job, but I could always do with some feedback. So maybe I'll hit you up about that one.
Yes. And I learned a lot on that project as well of how to clean my teeth. I just went to the dentist the other day and got a stellar report. So,
There you go.
oh,
Did you tell him that the robot taught you how to do it? Is that what you
yeah,
said?
yeah, in so many words.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. All right. Let's move on because I'm going down a path here. All right. So, what technologies are people working with to develop these projects? That are having these sorts of impacts. Could you tell us a little bit more about that and the space?
Yes. One of the best ones, and one that we've actually used in multiple engagements that I've been on. It's called Accord.net. So it's a framework which allows you to do a multitude of different AI functions, so machine learning functions, from pattern recognition to facial recognition to categorizing and clustering objects. It lets you do a lot of different things for this one platform, and you can tailor it to your needs. So that's one of the ones that I've seen done very well and actually perform very well.
Okay. Core.net. I'll check that out. Not that I'll understand anything about it, but it sounds pretty cool. Okay, so if companies are interested in using machine learning for good, what kind of team do they need to build, and what are like the job titles within it?
Well, every situation is different. So this will depend on the amount of data that you're trying to pull in. But I can only give a few situations that I've been in. We've had a team of roughly 4 software engineers, one data scientist, one business analyst, and the product manager, and that was for the criminal justice software organization, and that does not include the PhD that we were working with on the outside of the organization. So it was a good amount of people, but each individual team will be a little different. At the healthcare company, our team was it was very much different. We had a small team of developers, about 3 developers. We had a expert in augmented reality, another data scientist, and then we had other teams from infrastructure, which were outside of our team but helped us significantly, as well as from hardware because the actual brush that we had to tie everything together with had their own team. So it all depends on what you're trying to do.
Okay, so is it as simple as the bigger the initiative, the more people you're going to need? Or is it the amount of data? Like what separates that sort of the team? Or is that too hard to generalize?
It's probably the amount of data, but it also depends on how many different software or hardware items are linked to this. Because at the criminal justice organization, we already had all the infrastructure in place for the bracelets that will monitor the alcohol. So basically, that system just tied into that software, and we didn't have to worry about meeting with the hardware teams because the software was already created for that, and then it just sent the signal to our AI system. With the healthcare company, we didn't have any of the software connected, so we had to work with the hardware team as well and the manufacturing teams and multiple teams in order to tie everything together.
Okay, so in that case, it's just where you're starting in the journey, whether it's, from scratch or from implementation of a certain point in that journey, right?
Exactly. That's exactly the
Okay.
way it goes.
Okay. All right, cool. So, mate, I've got one more question for you, and it's the question I like to ask everyone when they join the show here. If there's one thing that you would want the listeners to take away from this conversation, what would it be?
If there's a problem that you are trying to solve in society or within your industry that requires an enormous amount of data input, which can be solved through predicting patterns, then you may want to look into some type of machine learning application. It has the power to revolutionize your industry and help the world in tremendous and great ways.
I sort of don't want to say anything after that because that was just so well put and it was such a beautiful message. I really don't want to say anything, but I sort of have to close this out.
Well, thank you, Matt.
Well, thank you. No, mate, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one. It's always good to talk about when this sort of technology that the industry we're in. We're talking about all different types of technology, but when it's specifically designed to help people, for a good cause, whatever the initiative is, it's always a really nice a part of this world. So thank you for sharing, and yeah, thanks again, mate. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Yes, definitely, Matt. I'll love to be back.
No worries. Okay, mate. See you later. You've been listening to Logic 2020's podcast, Digital Now. To learn more, visit our website at logic2020.com or follow us on social media. See you next time.
I always, I always have a problem because I actually tried to do my own podcast once before, and it was just like, oh my goodness, I was just talking to myself. So I was just kind of ranting. It was like one of those ranting podcasts where you just kind of just talk about your opinions.
Oh, man.
And this was about 30 minutes of me just ranting. So it's like it used to take about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours for me to record 30 minutes.